back again for another analysis of, this time, the Redcliffe Dolphins Football Club on their round one loss to the Sunshine Coast Falcons. Lee's, of course, from rugbyleaguecoach.com.au and is here to share some light. Lee, what can you tell us, mate? You're not in the country. Did they finally kick you out back to England? Or?
Mate, I'm sorry I can't get in the studio this week or next week, so you'll have to do it from my studio. When we're recording, I've actually got a couple of aim higher clinics in Narang. I've got 2 more to go, so a shout out to all the kids there at Narang who have no doubt started tuning into Queensland League scene every week. But yeah, just for the next 2 weeks, I'll be busy during those times, mate. So well, this will have to do us.
That's right, mate. The lighting's just as good. You look beautiful as ever.
Mate, like you said, had a look at Redcliffe, and I've got to be honest, mate, I'm a little bit worried about them. I know as an old Redcliffe boy, you might not want to hear that, but there's a few things I saw in their performance just in the first few minutes, to be honest. I think hopefully they've done a lot of work this week. When I show you, mate, it'll start to become clear. They got beaten by 20 points at the weekend, so they've really got it all ahead of them to try and topple the current premiers, haven't they, this weekend?
Yeah, it's a massive task for them to go to Bishop Park and beat the defending premiers this weekend. They'll have to be up to the task, that's for sure. So hopefully Scott Murray might be watching Queensland League scene and adopting some of your tactics for this week.
He's a good bloke, Scott. I've coached against him a few times, know him well. So yeah, let me share my screen with you, mate. Well, Taylor, as a bit of a theme at the minute, I'm looking at the first few minutes of each game with the methodology that if a team doesn't know what the coach wants them to do in the first 5 minutes, then they're in a bit of trouble. This is the first set that Redcliffe have in the game. And one thing I found, I might just start that again, mate, because it wasn't on mute, sorry.
Of course.
So, Taylor, just continuing our theme, what I'm trying to do is look at the first 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of a game with the methodology behind me that if a team doesn't know what a coach wants them to do in the first 10, 20 minutes of a game, then when do they know? You know, it's they're playing catch-up after that. I'm going to roll the tape. This is the first set Redcliffe had of the game. And the big thing that jumps out to me, Taylor, is how overly basic it is. It worries me a little bit. If you look at their shape, they're actually quite bunched around the ball. I'll just pause the tape there. They're in shape, or they will be in shape soon, and it's almost like they want to do push through the defensive line. But it's very readable, and the opposition defence can actually really bunch up if they want to. I mean, the opposition decide not to really here, but they can. I mean, look at that shape there, Taylor. They can really bunch up there, and they know where the ball will be going. It's not going to be going too far wide, and straight away. I mean, if I'm coaching against that this week, then I'm jamming my defence in. I'm getting bodies in the tackle because I find it quite readable. Because it looks to me like they're trying to play a sort of game where they push in around the ruck and try and get a tip on here, there, and everywhere. The other thing I noticed too was the discrepancy in some of the ruck width. So this player who's just took in the hit up, he's actually just been taken by the marker. Now, in my mind, markers are 2 men or 2 women if it's the girls' game that the game allows to be offside. Why not run wider of the ruck so that you get away from them? So they're negligible meters. The play before was nice and wide and it was fine. So there's an exit set that I think could have been maximised. We're now looking at their good ball. Taylor, I want you to tell me how many times you notice Redcliffe pass the ball more than twice in a play.
Okay, let's have a look.
And I've got to be honest, I was quite alarmed by their lack of vision here. And
yeah,
I mean, they're just trying to bash the ball through the middle, aren't they, so far?
Yes.
Now, let's play devil's advocate. Maybe they're setting up in the middle. So if they're setting up in the middle, I'm starting to look at defensive numbers either side of the ball. The opposition putting either no marker or 1 marker. But look, another crash ball again now.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, I expect to see some points, or I expect to see somebody putting on some real burners to get over the line. Another 1-pass play. And they don't go past either tram line on either side.
No.
Now,
they're really quite punched through the middle. And even their fullback and all their spine is just really in that middle channel. There's no threat to the external sides.
Yeah, we're in the first 5 minutes of the game, and surely the coach's instructions are ringing out. Now, the lack of vision here on some of these clips, because as I've said to the viewers before, I count numbers and count heads. Now, another pass or two there, and they're at the wing. They're outside the wing.
Well, that winger there is Nat McGavin from the Sunshine Coast Falcons.
Yeah.
Justin Worley and his winger would have been on the outside. So the space is there.
So they're not looking up, like their eyes are firmly fixated on the middle third of the field, it seems. Have you seen them pass the ball more than twice yet?
No, not yet. No, there's been no more than 2 passes each time.
Another hit up again. Now, this is very easy for the Falcons to defend. And I'm pretty sure that the Devils are going to be able to defend this too. They've got to show some more firepower, give the ball more air in opposition good ball at the very least. I mean, look at this. This is the halfback. A couple more passes and they were in space and they were in the corner. But they're not even, look, the halfback's got the ball here and he carries the ball to the line. I mean, are they trying to do 5 settlers for a settler to score?
Maybe they're not used to not having me on the side crash over for them.
So, as you can see, in that good ball set there, or 2 good ball sets because they got a repeat set, absolutely nothing in terms of enterprise. Now,
if you're coaching the Redcliffe Dolphins this weekend, what sort of plays and what sort of conversations are you having with your men on the Wednesday night field session that's going to help them to keep that eyes up and play that sort of football? What sort of, can I say, drills do you have up your sleeve that can help coaches to expand their vision?
I'll be honest with you, Taylor. I feel that it's not a quick fix. And so, as you know from playing under me in the past, I love decision-making drills, 3v2, 4 versus 3, even 3 versus 3 or 4 versus 4, just so that players are recognising the defensive movements of the opposition. I do promote, though, the use of the football in my teams, and I actually actively encourage my players to look up at the defensive line. And I think sometimes we don't teach our players how to look up. What are they actually looking for? So, for example, if you've got to play the ball in the middle of the field and there's 2 markers and 1 fullback, that leaves 10 men in the defensive line. Quite often, a defensive team will leave 4 on one side of the play the ball and 6 on the other. So you've got to encourage your players to recognise what they're looking for. They're looking for that 4. I remember when I was at Penrith under Matthew Elliott, they literally had a call that was called 4, which meant there was only 4 players in the defensive line to attack them. Whether they could recognise that or not was another matter, and you need good shape. And I think it's just repetition of drills like the ones I've explained, games, conditioning games, but also games for understanding. And as you know from back in the day, I love 13 versus 13. I love scrimmage. Go against your reserve grade, and if your players don't find space, if they don't get the ball to space, or if they don't look up at least, give a turnover, let the reserve grade have the ball. That's how I would develop it. And what I've also done this week, Taylor, rather than just look at the attack or just look at the defence, I've actually included this defensive clip as well, because we've just had the start of the game. Redcliffe basically dominated for best possession for the first few minutes. They're now going to have to defend a tap on the 20, and look how much urgency they lack.
Yeah.
And already the opposition have got some good meters. The defensive structure, again, I mean, we've had a look at Wynnum. We've had a look at Burley defending. They were killing the rucks far better last year than these guys here. Now that third ruck isn't too bad. You'll see something in a minute that's a real concern. Now, I'm actually going to rewind that and go back to where it happened, just so we can try and make some sense of it here. As I freeze the tape here, what's clearly not happening is the relationship between the A defender, the B defender, the A defender, and the markers. They're either not completely sure of what their job is and what their role is in this moment in time, or it's a massive miscalculation, because what possibly should happen is the markers should sort of hold their position, the A should tie in, the B should tie in. Instead, we've got these gaping holes in the defensive line, and you can tell just by the body language the markers are rushing out, the ball gets turned back inside, and that is absolute carnage. For the first defensive set of the game for you, that's not a good outcome. And they nearly score, the Falcons, and already Redcliffe are on the back foot. Now, at this juncture, I've got to be honest, it sounds like I'm really going to town on Redcliffe.
Yeah.
Right? Scott is a good coach, and you can tell by this defensive set now on the goal line. So they're defending their own goal line. That defensive team you've just seen, have a look at how composed they are on this line. They're actually not that bad. The numbers are okay. They operate with 2 markers. Their opposition operated with 1 in this area, but that's fine. All of a sudden, the A's and B's were tied in then. I do have a bit of a doubt about the spacings, but nonetheless, this is a defensive line that all of a sudden looks like it knows what it's doing, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're working together. You can tell they're communicating as well.
That's right. And they gave away a penalty, which isn't great, but nothing came of it. So, mate, yes, it did sound like I'm going to town on Redcliffe then, I admit that, right? Full respect for their coach and full respect for their club. Maybe they did absolutely everything he didn't want them to do in the first few minutes of the game, right? But it seemed to me that they were instructed to not worry too much about field balance, but put in shape around the ball coming out of exit. To me, that makes them very readable. In good ball, especially early in the game, I would like to see them promote the ball a bit more, at least pass it 2 or 3 times, shift the ball to the other side of the field, have some people moving around the ball. I mean, I think there was 3 attempts at a crash over try. Yes. If you want to do a crash over try, you need a real good prop in your team, like a Petros in a receiver, a Matthew Lodge or a Taylor Brown, don't you?
That's right. All three classic props that play for the Redcliffe Dolphins.
So I just wonder if they came out a bit of sleep then.
Sorry, mate. Scotty's just on the phone to me now. I'll have to take this one.
Nah, he's a really good bloke and a really good coach, and I totally do wish him well. Of course I do. But mate, if I'm looking at the opposition coach, I find them quite readable. And you know, we're recording this midweek for a Thursday release. We can only assume Scotty's done loads to fix that during this week. But North will be licking their lips looking at that.
Yes, well, we all know that Rowan is a very attack-heavy coach, and I dare say that his video session might be just a lion licking his lips for this weekend. But if you're in that Redcliffe dressing shed for the video session that was probably last night, I reckon that would probably hurt as well.
Mate, what I will say is that if you are Rowan and if you are North, try and attack Redcliffe before they get near their own goal line. That's a very common thing. A lot of teams sometimes, if their mentality isn't great in defence, they don't switch on defensively until they get near the goal line. Because obviously, if you fall off a tackle there, you concede a try. Did you see the difference there in the first few minutes of their defence? The first 80 metres of defence wasn't great at all. Possibly extreme examples. But ultimately, I mean, as we've seen in previous clips, the first 5 minutes of a game can win you or lose you a game. This is the 3rd highest competition in the world, third toughest competition in the world. I expect to see better from players around that time.